What's going on, guys? It's Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm going over my UFC Shanghai picks. We're going to go over all my predictions, my picks, let you guys know what I'm thinking, my insights. So yeah, let's get right into it. First up, we got Diyar Nurgozhay versus Uran Satybaldiev. Now, I'm picking Uran Satybaldiev, but I'm not super confident in this one. Now, if we look at their recent performances, we can see, Diyar Nurgozhay, he did not look good against Brandon Ribeiro, and there was a couple things that stood out to me in this fight beyond just the performance itself. Now, first off, he wasn't even able to make weight in this fight. Not a good look. He missed by 4 pounds, and he's a tubby dude, so it's not like he's killing himself trying to cut off an extra couple pounds, and he has some crazy six-pack. You know, he's genuinely not a skinny guy, so the fact that he didn't even try to cut weight is a red flag. You know, maybe he was sick. So on the one end, you know, maybe Diyar, we haven't seen him really look his best. Maybe that weight cut, maybe he was sick. You know, maybe there was something underlying that we didn't really know about. It caused him to not even be able to really work anywhere near the weight cut to where he should have been, you know. So maybe there's an underlying thing, because he looked really bad in this performance when so far in his career he hasn't looked this bad. But in this fight, beyond just the weight cut too, we saw him get outclassed in pretty much every department by Brandon Ribeiro. And I don't think Brandon Ribeiro is necessarily a world beater. You know what I mean? He's been punished. We've seen his level where he kind of caps. You know, I forget who he just got knocked out by. But, you know, like, there's levels for him that he's not the highest level guy. So seeing Diyar just get worked like that, not a good look. You know, and it was because in the first round, we saw him get worked on the feet. He got knocked down in the striking department. And then in the second round, you know, Diyar finally was like, all right, let me implement my wrestling. Let me try and take it to the ground. Boom, he gets submitted. So all around, a really terrible UFC debut for him against Brandon Ribeiro. That doesn't rub me the right way. And then if on the other side, though, if you look at Uran Satybaldiev, you can see, yep, his UFC debut against Martin Buday was actually a pretty damn good performance. You know, Martin Buday, yes, he just got cut from the UFC, but he's had a really good run at heavyweight. Yes, I'm not a hater of Martin Buday, but I don't like his style. But if you go and rewatch this fight, he was having a lot of success on the feet early on. And the thing about this fight too is Uran Satybaldiev, he took this fight on 2 days notice, and he had to go up a weight class. And the thing is like, this guy, I looked at this fight too. So if you click here, okay, see this? Yep. He weighed in at 222 pounds. So he's normally a light heavyweight fighting up at heavyweight. So he stepped up a weight class, 2 days notice, and he weighed in at 222 pounds, meaning he didn't cut down at all. You know, he fit right in the weight class, but I mean, that's probably where he's walking around on a normal day, you know, whereas Martin Buday, you know, he cuts all the way down to 265. He's a huge dude, an absolute mammoth of a man. So for him to take the short notice step up a weight class against Martin Buday, the guy who's maxing out the heavyweight limit, you know, that's probably the most horrible nightmare scenario for him to take on short notice. And the fact he rocked Martin Buday, he won that first round. He looked really good on the feet. He was hurting Buday. It was just Buday eventually worked the clinch. I mean, you got to figure if Buday, the limit's 265, so he had to weigh in there. He's going to come in even heavier than that. Lord knows how much weight there was between these two in that fight. Enough to make a large difference. So the fact that Martin Buday was able to hold him against the cage with Lord knows how many pounds he had on him doesn't really tell me anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't really negatively affect my view on Uran Satybaldiev here. So for that reason, just between these two, they've had their own UFC debuts. We've seen how they've fought. They've been two completely different outcomes. Yes, losses for both, but Uran looked pretty damn good in this, especially for short notice as a heavyweight in the heavyweight division, or a light heavyweight in the heavyweight division. The cardio is not great to begin with, so to see him even make it all the way, you know, really was pretty impressive. And the only reason he lost this fight was purely just because he wasn't able to withstand the 40-50 pounds that Martin Buday had on him. So at light heavyweight, this is going to be a lot different. Now, the last thing that I'm going to say about this fight too is what's his name? Diyar, he has this like weird tick thing that I know it's like some people pointed out, and a lot of you guys are probably aware of this, but I just think the higher and higher we see Diyar start to raise up his level of competition, he's going to get punished for this tick. And if you haven't seen this tick, he like touches his face, and it's probably the worst tick you could physically have, purely because it's blocking his eyesight. He's literally like moving his eyes, like rubbing his eyes. He's completely going blind for a half second while he's doing this shit. So it's one of those things, especially he's going against a striker like Uran, who has some power in his punches. You know, he was able to rock Buday. And it's like, that does not give me any hope. The longer we see Diyar go on, he's going to fight high-level strikers that are going to punish him for that tick. They're going to start catching reads with it. They're going to punish him. Now, I think Uran could definitely be that guy. I'm not saying it's a lock, but I'm saying he definitely could punish him for one of those ticks. And all it takes is one big hit from a power puncher to really even the fight. Now, I'm not super confident in Diyar in this one, purely just because we haven't seen a ton from either of these guys. You know, it was like one performance, it was one guy looking probably his worst ever, and another one was like a weight class up, short notice. So it's like it's really hard to put a ton of weight behind this fight for either of them. You know what I mean? There were so weird examples with a lot of random BS coming up, honestly, between the two fights, that neither guy was in a spot to really show how they'll look on a normal day. So I don't have a ton of confidence in this. You know, a lot of people are picking Satybaldiev in this, and I get why people are fading Nurgozhay, but I wouldn't put the world on that performance, because he just didn't look good. He looked really off compared to some of his regional scene tape. Yes, I think he's pretty limited. No, I don't think he's great, especially he's limited in his striking, only being dangerous with his real one side, but I don't know. I'm still leaning Satybaldiev. I'm just not super confident in this one, so I don't want people to go and overextend on this one. But anyway, next up, we got Xiao versus SuYoung. Now, I've gone back and forth with this one. I've gone back and forth because on one hand, SuYoung should have the better grappling. He should be able to take it down to the ground if he wants to. But at the same time, Xiao he's decently well-rounded. You know, he's seen in certain fights he started to slow down a little bit. Like we saw, who did he fight? It was Chang Ho Lee. He was winning this fight, and he's very strong, and he's very dominant early on when he's fresh. It's just he started to slow down, and he started to wear down the further the fight went on, and he started to lose the longer it went on. So he gave up the last round. The second round was close. That's what made it a split. He won the first round. It's like this just... It showed how good he could be, but it's just the cardio is questionable. But his win against Quang Lee was actually pretty damn impressive. You know, Quang Lee is not no walk in the park. You know, he has a good record, 9-2 so far. Who else did he fight? I forget. Yeah, Gaston Bolaños, he ran right through him. He made him look like an amateur. So the Xiao, that loss, it doesn't really make me feel poorly either way. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a good, solid win to have. In this loss, it was purely just because he gassed out. So I actually think Xiao has a chance in this. And the thing that's really kind of, or I'll talk about what's his name, SuYoung first. But it kind of ties in with the same thing of why I'm leaning Xiao in this one, just ever so slightly. But anyway, when he fought AJ Cunningham is not the best fighter. We all know this. He's not great. It's like second stint in the UFC. I mean, the boy's been struggling. Shout out to AJ Cunningham, though. He's trying his best. He's just not the highest level. And, you know, we all know that. But the thing is when you go and look at the striking, it's actually fairly competitive. AJ Cunningham was rocking him with some shots. Like, it was pretty insane. It was these head kicks. He was landing these big kicks that he was just eating. SuYoung, his striking defense was just piss poor. And it was like, yes, he was able to land the takedowns when it got rocky, and he was able to dominate on the ground. AJ Cunningham, he really had no wrestling defense. He had no way to really survive on the ground. He was just kind of a lamb to a slaughter. And yes, it went to a decision. As you can see, it was a 30-27. So like, he won every round, but he was getting clipped with some shots. Not like he was going to get knocked out, but he was defensively vulnerable in the striking. And I think since he's fighting a guy like Xiao, who does have some pop in his hands, and he's pretty fast, he's pretty quick, doesn't have the best striking, but he should be better than SuYoung in the striking department. So for that reason, I'm slightly leaning Xiao in this one. You know, I think if he's able to keep this on the feet, he could easily win this fight. I think SuYoung, his only real chance to win this is if he's going to take it to the ground. And I think this is going to be a very close fight. You know, I think these odds are very, very close, and I think they're very accurate, because I really think it's going to come down to the last round, or maybe the second round, honestly. I could easily see Xiao, I could see him stuffing the takedowns early on, being the stronger man, more dominant, more physically empowering early on. I could see him winning the first round, but I can see him starting to slow down maybe around halfway through the fight, maybe around 7.5 minutes in. The tides might start to turn a little bit. I think the third round, I could easily see SuYoung taking over that third round. So it'll be a matter of that second round, just like his fight against Quang Ho Lee, that guy. It was the same exact situation where it's like he looks great, looks dominant, even in the striking and the grappling, he looks good. It just starts to slow down. SuYoung does have good cardio, but is it enough to get the job done? It's like I don't want to make my pick on SuYoung purely for the fact that I'm hoping he has the cardio edge in that third round. You know, I don't want to base a pick off of that. Because if I think these guys if they had even cardio, I would pick Xiao with a bit more confidence. But it's like, I don't. I'm torn because I've seen this exact type of situation where he's going up against the grappler. He starts to slow down, loses a split decision. Split decision, though, I mean, it could go either way. I'm almost positive it was a split decision. Yeah, it was a split decision. He lost, so it's like, depending on how the judges are viewing it, it could go either way. Now, Long Xiao is the Chinese man, so it's like hometown advantage. Maybe if it's a real coin toss, the crowd's going crazy for Long Xiao, I could see it going that way. The other thing I kind of highlighted too is with SuYoung, people are saying his striking is not that bad, but it's like he has a 44% significant striking accuracy. So it's like, that is not great. You know what I mean? It's not the best striking. It's not like Long Xiao is going to be light years ahead, but I think he should be the better striker with more power in the hands. And as long as he can keep it on the feet, I like it. The one thing I will say, though, I wrote this down in my notes. Long Xiao he has a 77% takedown defense, which looks really good on paper, but every single one of his recent opponents have all been able to take him down. It's just the takedown defense rate is so high is because dudes shoot a million takedowns. Like in his fight against Shohei Knows, we can pull that up for you guys too. Yeah, Shohei Knows, if I'm saying that right, or is it? Shohei Knows went 4 for 17 on takedowns. And when he fought Shuya Kamikubo, he went 3 for 19 on takedowns. So it's like, yes, Long Xiao does have a 77% takedown defense, and I get why people are weighing that into their consideration, because I am too, you know what I mean? I think if he can keep it on the feet, he can win this fight. But it's like on both ends. One, it's a high takedown defense, but it's because guys are shooting a million. But at the same time, he's still, if only 3 out of 19 got through in a fight, that's still impressive, you know? But every single fighter that he's fought has been able to take him down. So just something to consider. It kind of like points me in both ways in the sense of like, oh, it's a plus, but also a minus. So I don't know. I'm torn on this one. Not super confident in this, but the pick's got to be Long Xiao for now. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this one as the week goes on, though. Now, next up, we got Yizha versus Westin Wilson. Now, this line is absolutely shot. Do I think Westin Wilson wins this fight? I cannot say that in good faith. Here, cut these out really quick. Westin Wilson. The thing with Westin Wilson, though, if you look at his UFC fights, and I know this is like common knowledge, but I feel like people are overlooking this. Yes, he got knocked out by Joanderson Brito. Yes, he got knocked out by Gene Silva. Those are not bad losses. You know, I don't think Westin Wilson is that terrible. It's just the durability, not great. Gene Silva round 1 knockout, sure. Joanderson Brito, not as much of a just little ball of energy like Gene Silva, but still, those are respectable. If you're getting knocked out by those guys, you know, that's not, oh, that's a red flag. That's just, it is what it is. The Sergei, that win has not aged as well. You know, we just saw him get put out again. So it's like, not the best, but it's like those losses are just not as bad as they look either. So it's like when he's going against Yizha, how old is he? I think he's 25 or no, he's 28. Okay. 28 years old though. I mean, yes, he fought Gabriel Santos, very good. You know, it's kind of in the same boat. You know, Gabriel Santos is a very high level fighter. He beat, who was the Delanos, who was on the Contender Series last night, who looked amazing in that fight. So it just goes to show, like, Gabriel Santos is a good fighter, you know, so that you can't take that away from him. But it's like, other than that, it's like these are road to UFC wins. Jung-Young Lee, yeah, he's a good striker, so losing a split decision to him, that's not a bad thing. You know, that means the striking is going to be competitive on the feet. But it's like, to warrant him being a minus 1,200 is absolutely insane. Because it's like, he has a lot of wins, you know, 25-5. But you look at the KO, 5 knockout wins out of those 25. Is he going to submit him either? I'm like, I don't know if he's going to submit Westin Wilson. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. The thing that I would be most worried about Westin Wilson would be his chin and his durability, which would be from the knockouts, but I don't know if we're going to see that. So for Lane, minus 1,500 on it is absolutely insane. It's unplayable. You know, I'm going to pick Yizha in this one just because he's the younger, more hungry guy. You know, Westin Wilson, how old is he at this point? 36. As a featherweight, too. It's like, you can't pick him. There's just no, you cannot pick Westin Wilson in this. If you're betting, I can't even see throwing, you know, I can't lie, though. Westin Wilson, he has cashed me before. He made me a little bit of money in his Sergei fight. I did take him by round 1 sub. So I can't say that the line is like madness. And I think he was a big dog. He was like, what, plus 400 or something? I don't know. I think it was higher than this because I cashed his round 1 sub at like plus 1,400 or something absolutely insane. But so I can't say Westin Wilson has no chance because I've literally bet on him and seen him prove that wrong. When you think everyone's saying, oh, he's just going to get killed. You got to pick Yizha, though. You got to pick Yizha. You got to pick him. Got to pick him. In China, if there's any BS that's going on, it's going his way. I don't think it's going to get there. I think he's probably going to get the finish. He could get the knockout or the submission, honestly. Seeing it go to a decision would be extremely unlikely just purely due to Westin Wilson's kill or be killed style. He doesn't go to a decision. He's getting finished or he's getting the finish. So if anyone's getting the finish here, it's probably got to be Yizha. But do not bet on this. Please, dear God, do not bet on this fight. It's a little far down. Next up, we got Michel Pereira versus Kyle Daukaus. Now, I actually am not going to talk about this one for that long. Oh yeah, I didn't even put their damn their pages up here to talk about because I literally don't want to talk about this one for very long. Kyle Daukaus is just not that good. He's not that good. Yes, it's his second stint in the UFC. He's been finished by everyone that he went against in the first time. Yes, they were high-level competition. You know, like Delije was not a bad loss. I forget who else he fought. I'm blanking. But it's like, he just never looked great. It's like, okay, now he's back after a couple regional scene wins, and he's fighting Michel Pereira. Not a good guy you want to face. You know what I mean? That's not the fun matchup to go against. Now, I get everyone's hesitation with Michel Pereira, because we'll pull this up. Now, I get everyone's hesitation. This performance right here, I don't know how much he got paid off by whoever, wherever, whatever. I don't know who paid him off. I don't know what bet he placed against himself. Whatever bets he was involved with, whatever corruption he was involved with, whatever mafia paid him off in this fight, he's eaten. He made a bag off of that. I was confident in him to win this fight. I thought he was going to come in here, look great, maybe not even get the finish, but just win the fight. You know, I was confident. Had money on him in this one. I was very confident. I was like, Michel Pereira, this is his fight to win. That was probably one of the worst performances I've seen from someone that I'm like actually actively like rooting for and cheering, and not like like sometimes people just get finished early on. Like maybe someone gets knocked out. You know, you can't blame them for that. You know, things happen. This was like actively throwing a fight away, like actively just throwing it down the drain. You know what I mean? Like, one of the most embarrassing performances I've seen from a fighter. I know I'm ranting, and I know I'm a little bit biased because I had some money on him there to beat Abus, but at the same time, anyone who's watched this fight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was an embarrassment. The thing is, though, when guys shit the bed, they usually come back better, and their lines get cut, and that's usually the time to play them. And I usually stay away from things like this. It's kind of like the Diyar fight, you know, the first fight of the night. It feels the same thing like that. He shit the bed. Now his line's going to be a little bit tighter. And it feels like the same thing with this. Michel Pereira, he shit the bed last time. It's probably going to be a little bit tighter. It was the same thing. Like, who's a recent example? Like a Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot, huge favorite, shit the bed, went in as a pick'em, looked incredible, cashed his ticket. I didn't cash it. I didn't have anything on it. But he, like, for the people that bet on him again, he cashed it. This kind of feels like the same thing. This kind of feels like something similar. If he does the same type of thing and he shits the bed again, I'm going to be angry would be an understatement. So I almost want to avoid this one entirely. But I feel like these odds are actually pretty fair. You know, Michel Pereira, he's well-rounded. He's explosive. He's dangerous. He can finish the fight anywhere it goes. Daukaus has had durability problems. The pick is Pereira. That's all I got to say about this one. I can't put any more brain power into this or I'll go insane. But next up, we got Rongju versus Austin Hubbard. Now, I like Rongju in this one. I'm picking Rongju. I've never been high on Austin Hubbard. I just never really... I just never been high on him, you know? From all the fights we've seen of him, too, it's like Markel Medeiros. Yes, he lost. This was a shit show from both of them. Wasn't great. Alexander Hernandez. Obviously, I mean, this loss has aged a little bit better with the Chase Hooper performance, but still not someone I'm super high on. I never have been. Same with Kurt Holloway, older Kurt Holloway, too. It's like, it's just none of his performances have really stood out to me, especially the losses. You know, it's like nothing that I've seen from him has ever inspired me. Where with Rongju, at least, I like Rongju. I think he's a dog. Now, we'll talk about Rongju. The fight that stood out to me that just showed me this man has that dog in him is his fight against Chris Padilla. Now, this was a competitive match. I think he lost the first round because it was a second round stoppage. He lost the first round on 2 out of the 3 judges' scorecards. So it was competitive enough to where you could have weighed it either way. It could have gone either way. But it ended up going for Chris Padilla. But it was very close. The second round, they start scrapping, same thing. Very close, very competitive. Could have gone either way. But he gets hit with this big eye shot. Or it was an elbow. Chris Padilla lands this elbow, hits him right in the eye, breaks his orbital bone. It was all nasty. It was all puffed up. Now, this dude's eye was absolutely cooked. Absolutely cooked. And what does he do? He's pissed. The doctor comes in. Dude, he takes his mouth guard and he just throws it on the ground. He was so pissed. He was so angry. Dude, if my eye was that messed up and I could see it that messed up, I'm like, all right, man, I'm out. Broken bones. I'm like, oh my God, I'm out, man. I'm calling it. This dude was so visibly mad that the fight was stopped. I mean, he was genuinely so upset that they were calling it off. That's all I needed to see. That made me a Rong Zhu supporter. I'm riding the wave. I like him. I think he has that dog in him. And I think he's going to have more dog than Austin Hubbard. I think he's going to come out here. He lands mean strikes too. Rong Zhu, when he hits you, he's a bad man. He hits you. Now, he doesn't have a lot of side-to-side movement. He's in and out. Like, he's staying like straight on the center line. So, like, he can be hittable. He's not the most elusive striker, but he just hits with power, man. He just has bombshells to throw, especially with his leg kicks too. I think his leg kicks are underrated. He can land some really strong leg kicks, cause some damage on legs. So I think he should just be able to strike from range and outwork Austin Hubbard in this fight. I like him here. I like him a lot, especially this Cody Steele win. I was high on Cody Steele. I actually picked Cody Steele to win this fight. So for him to get the upset win, super impressive. He was just able to withstand any grappling attempts, landed bombs. I don't know if he knocked. I feel like he did knock Cody Steele. I feel like he hurt him a couple times. I'm kind of forgetting which one this was, but I'm pretty sure he rocked him a couple times. I could be wrong, could be blanking, but he looked great. He was able to stop the takedowns because we know Cody Steele is a very pressure-heavy grappler. He's looking for the takedowns. Good wrestling base, good BJJ. Then he was able to stop all of that. And it's just, that's the thing too with Austin Hubbard, is just he's not very dangerous. So it's like, yeah, Chris Padilla, dangerous striker. He was able to land that big elbow. I just don't know what Austin Hubbard is going to be able to do to really neutralize Rong Zhu in this fight. It's not going to be a submission. I don't see him knocking him out. We've seen him be able to handle the wrestling threat of a guy like Cody Steele. I'm like, I don't see any way for him to necessarily win this fight except a flying anvil or something like that. So I like Rong Zhu. I think the line is definitely not the best, but I get why it's where it's at. Like, this isn't blowing my mind seeing it be a little bit wide like this. Probably will have a little something on Rong Zhu this week. I'm not going to lie. I like him. And I kind of like the line too. But for the pick, Rong Zhu all day. Now, next up, we got Lonair Kavanagh versus Charles Johnson. This is one of my, this is like the hardest one for me to pick because there's certain guys I pick really well, and there's other guys I just have a hard time with. And Charles Johnson is one of those guys. It's kind of like, for me, it's like an RDR. Charles Johnson's one of them. There's a couple of them where I'm just like, I don't have the best time picking them. I feel like anytime I read them, it ends up going the other way. It's kind of like that with Charles Johnson too. We can look at Charles Johnson. Ramazan Tamarov, I don't love that result because it's influencing my opinion on this fight, but it's like at the same time, he ended up testing positive for steroids. So it's like, I don't want to put too much weight on this fight, but at the same time, it was a short, little stocky little striker. It was able to give him problems, was able to win the fight. Half of it was due to Charles Johnson just has a slow start where he's given up the first round, and by the time he starts to really push up the pace in the third round, it's too late sometimes. If he loses the second round too, he has problems. But I mean, look at his losses. Rafael Estevam, dominant wrestler. I just don't. Lonair is not going to be. He's not going to have that threat of the Cody Durden or the Rafael Estevam. 2023 Cody Durden too, a little bit better than now, I guess. Obviously, he's kind of starting to fade. But it's like, he's not going to have that wrestling pressure. He's going to want to stand and strike. Now, Odie Osborne, yeah, he's a good striker. So he did have trouble against similar, I guess, archetype of fighter. The little short, quick strikers. Ramazan Tamarov, pretty good. Obviously, 18-2. But even, the steroids kind of holds me back a little bit. But the thing that kind of has taken me off is first of all, it's the Josh Van fight. Because we saw even in the third round, he's dangerous. We know how good Josh Van is now. We know Josh Van is going on an absolute tear right now, so it's hard to look at this fight, and it's hard to call it a fluke. You know, I mean, you can't really call it a fluke. He just walked him right down. The second the round started, walked him down, uppercut, knockout, absolutely insane. And we've never seen that before. But the thing that, since with Josh Van, you know what I mean? He's just been on an absolute tear. But with Lone Air, in this fight with Felipe Dos Santos, he got clipped. You know, I think if Charles Johnson was hitting him with some shots like that had him rocked, Charles Johnson is so fast. He's so nimble. He's so good in the scrambles on the ground. He's the type of guy where he could have finished him there. I really think he would have had a much better chance to finish him if he hurts him than a guy like Felipe Dos Santos. Because Felipe Dos Santos just doesn't have the wrestling. And yes, we know Charles Johnson has struggled with wrestling before, but he's good with the scrambles. You know, maybe not necessarily the pure wrestling, but if it gets to the ground, we know Charles Johnson can scramble well. Defensive wrestling, yes, he can struggle, but it's a little bit different. You know, this was when he had him hurt, when Lone Air was hurt by Felipe Dos Santos, he was just kind of wrestling to save his life, you know, kind of like panic wrestling. That type of wrestling is not going to work against Charles Johnson. So if he gets hurt at all in this fight, I'd be concerned. Because, I mean, first of all, if you get hurt like he did in that last fight, he's losing the round. And against a guy like Charles Johnson, you can't afford to lose an early round if it's the first or the second, because you know he's just going to ramp it up in the third, and that's going to be his best round. You know, he gets better as the fight progresses. So I'm like, yes, Lone Air is going to be faster. He's going to be more nimble. He's going to have the better, more accurate striking, most likely, you know. But Charles Johnson he always has that what if factor. You know, what if he comes back late? What if he starts to have some success towards the end of the fight? It's always there. It's always live. So it gives me some hesitation. Like, I don't want to, you can't doubt Charles Johnson ever. That's the one thing I've learned. You can never, ever doubt Charles Johnson. So right now, the pick's got to be Charles Johnson. But I'm going back and forth on this. My final pick might end up changing a little bit, but as of right now, got to pick him. Now, Maheshate versus Gage Young. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I don't even think, did I include these guys? Yeah, I did. Okay, but honestly, I'm not even going to talk about them either. Or I'm not going to have a super long breakdown. I don't think either of these guys are all that good, to be blatantly honest with you. So I don't want to really waste too much time on this. Gage Young, I'm biased in this fight. I'm actually very biased for Gage Young. So we'll pull him up. Just because Gage Young has cashed me a lot of money. So I am a fan of Gage Young for making me money, but not necessarily in the fighting. Absolutely cashed him against Julian Salkild and absolutely cashed him against Evan Elder. I had a massive bet against him when he fought Evan Elder. It was short notice. He's just nowhere near as good as Evan Elder, and the line was close too. It was like plus 165. I think Evan Elder was a minus 195 or just right about minus 200. So Gage Young has been a golden goose for your boy, but that doesn't affect the pick. And at the same time, Maheshate, this mother effer he knocked out my boy Steve Garcia. So I'm biased in this one, man. I want to see him get knocked out, you know, get the get back for Steve Garcia, because that's my boy. So I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I think it's a pick 'em. I think these odds are perfectly accurate. Gun to my head, if this was in the States, I'd say Gage Young. This feels like a perfect robbery split decision for Maheshate. So I'm going to throw him in as the pick for now. I need to do a little bit more tape study on both of these guys, honestly. So this pick could change later on in the week, but for now, ever so slightly, it feels like a coin toss for Maheshate. I don't have a whole lot behind this. But where I do have some information is for the next one. For Taiyilake Nueraji versus Kiefer Crosbie. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now, yes, Kiefer Crosbie is shit on the ground. So I get why everyone is absolutely fading him. You're not wrong for that at all. Not wrong at all. I completely get it. I completely understand why people are fading him instantly. But Nueraji, there's a couple things to point out about this fight that I just think you guys should be aware of. Make your bets, make your picks accordingly. But first off, Nueraji is taking this fight on short notice at only about 3 weeks. You know, Kiefer Crosbie was he was training to fight Song Kanon, so this guy's stepping up short notice. Now, he also is taking this fight short notice, yes, but it's his UFC debut, and he's only 24 years old. So it's like, We've seen UFC debuts go wrong. We've seen countless prospects shit the bed in their UFC debut. He's only 24 years old. So yeah, I mean, he 11-1, considering his age, that's a good amount of fights, but he's very green, he's very fresh, he's very new. So to give him his UFC debut against at least a tested vet, you know what I mean? Kiefer Crosbie, say what you want to say about his skills, but he's been around the block. He's used to this. He's not going to let the bright lights affect his performance at all. And these odds are wide, and they are widening. They're even more wide than this, because I was just checking out the lines. Kiefer Crosbie is a plus 340 right now, and Nueraji is about a minus 500, I think. So, or no, it wouldn't be that wide. It's like minus 440, I think. He's somewhere around there. It's absolutely insane. The thing is, though, when you look at Kiefer Crosbie, his recent fights, yes, he fought Sam Patterson, and he got cooked on the ground. Sam Patterson has good ground game. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's trained it. That's like his specialty. And he's not bad. He's looked better and better. We just saw he put out left hand to God, Danny Barlow. He just knocked him out on the feet. So he's getting better and better. People are kind of sleeping on Sam Patterson. He's kind of sliding under the radar. So I'm not holding that win super highly against him, because it's the grappling too. That's the thing. Both of these losses, yes, Kevin Jousset, yes, that was his first pro sub win. If I'm thinking correctly, I'm almost positive it was. He might have had one before, but I think that was his first pro sub win. Yeah, that was his first win by submission. So yeah, I get why people are like, yeah, this dude is ass. You know, he got subbed by Kevin Jousset, who got made a mockery of by Brian Battle. Yeah, you know, I get it. I totally get it. But the thing is that he's a striker. So I was looking through the stats, and I was like, okay, when Kevin Jousset, yes, he did submit him in the first round, but Crosbie was outstriking him 39-29 before the submission. And I went and looked at the Sam Patterson fight, and they had equal significant significant strikes landed before the submission. So in the striking against both of these guys who are UFC level, I mean, yes, I think Kevin Jousset he did get cut, but I mean, they fought in the UFC, you know, they were having success. I mean, Sam Patterson's having success in the striking, because obviously he just knocked out Danny Barlow. So it just goes to show, like, I think his striking is a bit slept on. And that's the thing with Nueraji. We've seen from him, what does he like to do? He knocks dudes out. He likes to strike. He's not a submission artist. He has one submission in all of his pro wins. So that doesn't mean that this fight is just going to be he's just going to immediately wrap up a submission and it's over. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people are just assuming that. Oh, he has no ground game. He's just going to get subbed. Kiefer Crosbie, he is a big dude. You know what I mean? He has a lot of muscle. He's a big dude. He can strike. And his boxing is not bad. People are sleeping on it. And if this is a striking match, this is going to look a hell of a lot closer than the line suggests, especially for a 24-year-old short notice UFC debut. Now, the other thing I want to point out about this that was the most interesting to me about anything about this entire fight, if you look at the betting splits, 14% of the bets are on Crosbie, yet somehow 80% of the total money is also on Crosbie. So like that's not a common thing where it's like it goes the other way. You know, like in other fights, it was like for the Aljo fight, it's like maybe 80% of the bets are on him and 85% of the total money is on him. Considering that 14% of the bets are on Crosbie, yet 80% of the total money is on Crosbie too, it seems like all the sharps are just shooting this Crosbie money line. It's rubbing me the wrong way. It stood out as a red flag, because you don't see it be this wide like this. You know what I mean? We saw it was almost similar in the Westin fight with Yizha, but it's like that was just because it was like a minus 2,000 and that line's tightened up a little bit. You know, it was way too wide. But this 14% of the bets versus 80% of the total money, you can't trust betting spreads as like a rule of thumb, you know, like as law. But at the same time, that's very suspicious to me, rubbing me the wrong way. I might have to put a little sprinkle on Crosbie, just hopefully for not saying he wins the fight necessarily, but I think if this fight stays on the feet, this line's going to cut. It could be a very good live betting play. Just throwing that out right now in advance for you guys. But anyway, next up, we got Sumudaerji versus Kevin Borjas. You know, in this fight, I do have Sumudaerji. You know, I'm taking him ever so slightly over Kevin Borjas. I'm just not super impressed with Kevin Borjas. I know he's like a popular underdog this week. I don't see it. I'm taking Sumudaerji. I just don't know if Kevin Borjas is really as good as people think he is. Yeah, I mean, if you look at his recent fights, yeah, he had a good win over Ronaldo Rodriguez, but Ronaldo Rodriguez just isn't that good. You know, he's super chinny. His record's a bit padded. He's just not that great of a fighter. And the second his level of competition has started to raise, he's really kind of been exposed as being a little bit overrated. So I don't really put a lot of emphasis behind that win. Yeah, he looks fine. He was the better striker, but Ronaldo Rodriguez is just not that great. You know, Alessandro Acosta, he was struggling with the leg kicks, got knocked out in the second round early on from those leg kicks. He was really struggling with those. Josh Van, he lost that fight, which I'm not going to hold it against him, but at the same time, he's not looked great in the UFC so far, and the one win he has isn't that impressive. Where, if you look at Sumudaerji, we've been able to see him really be tested in different aspects. Now, we saw, yes, he did lose the decision to Charles Johnson, but it was a close fight. You know, it was not a bad fight at all. He held his own. He made it competitive, and that was a good experience for him to deal with the lengthier, longer striker who would probably be more of a challenge than the shorter guy like Kevin Borjas. Now, his submission loss wins to Tim Elliott and Matt Schnell. Yes, they don't look great, but I mean, the Tim Elliott win, it's aging better and better. We just saw what he did to Kaya Sakura, so I'm not really going to hold these wins, and I can't really include these wins in terms of like my overall thought process, because stylistically, Kevin Borjas is a striker. He's not going to be going for submissions like a Tim Elliott would. He's not going to try and grapple like that. So it's not to say you got to ignore these fights, you know. You definitely have to consider that, but stylistically, it's striker versus striker, so I'm not putting a huge emphasis on those submission losses. You know, if he was facing a grappler, yeah, it would be a hell of a lot different. But given the stylistics of this matchup, I'm not really putting a whole lot of weight onto these. You know what I mean? The Charles Johnson loss, yeah, it was. I mean, he still lost the fight, but that performance to me was more impressive than just seeing him ragdoll, or Kevin Borjas just go out there and knock whatever the kid's damn name is. What is it? Ronaldo Rodriguez. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not holding as much weight to it. Now, in terms of the physical aspects, because I mean, both these guys are green enough, so where I'm not having a ton of emphasis on their recent fights. Obviously, that's what you got to go off of, but in the sense of nothing that's like extremely like poking out to me, you know, it's kind of nothing crazy. But if it's something like this, where the fight is so close, you know what I mean? I get why people are taking both sides. It's such an even fight. You look at the stats. That's where this is the type of fight where I look at the stats for. Now, I wrote these down in my notes. Sumudaerji in this fight, I mean, you got some of them at the top, or some of them on the screen, but Sumudaerji in this fight, he's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage, and he's going to be a southpaw going against an orthodox fighter. Southpaw strikers going against orthodox strikers naturally have that edge because there's not as many southpaw fighters out there, so he's going to have a little bit more of an advantage in terms of Kevin Borjas is not going to be able to have as much experience dealing with or fighting against southpaw strikers. So it's not necessarily a huge edge, but it definitely does favor Sumudaerji ever so slightly. Now, also in the stats, if you look at their significant striking differentials, Sumudaerji has a positive plus 1.77 significant striking differential, whereas Kevin Borjas has a minus 0.89. So it's completely different. You know, one's a positive 1.77, whereas for Borjas, it's a negative 0.89. So the significant striking differentials for these guys are pretty wide, you know, considering this is going to be a striking match, considering all the height, the reach, the southpaw versus orthodox, the significant striking differentials, the stats all point towards Sumudaerji in this. And if you want to get a little bit of like a conspiracy theory, he is the Chinese fighter fighting in China going against the Peruvian. If there's anything shaky, rocky here, it's going to be going Sumudaerji's way. So I got to go Sumudaerji in this one. You know, I also put in my notes, when he fought Ronaldo Rodriguez, yes, he won the fight, but it was definitely close in terms of the volume because Borjas outstruck him 83-64, and that included Ronaldo being knocked down, and he was hurt multiple times throughout that fight. So when you break that fight down round by round, he outstruck him by 7, 6, and 6 significant strikes per round in that fight. And considering he was dominating that fight, you know, he was up the entire time. To see that he really kept it close in the volume is not great, especially when we think this is going to go to the scorecards and this is going to be a close fight. I don't know. And then also, when Kevin fought Josh Van, he got outstruck 75-156. And Josh Van, yes, he has a slow start when he gets to get his reads and everything, so he starts to ramp it up more further, but it wasn't even close in the volume. It wasn't even remotely close. And I know it's not a great one-to-one comparison, but when Sumudaerji faced a good striker like a Charles Johnson, he looked solid. He looked a lot better in terms of Kevin Borjas versus Josh Van versus Charles Johnson versus Sumudaerji. There was a lot more competitiveness, you know, when it was Charles Johnson versus Sumudaerji. It was a lot closer of a fight in terms of the volume, the accuracy. Yeah, Charles Johnson had success. He got a little knockdown in the second, but it was a lot closer than Josh Van just put on a masterclass on Kevin Borjas, you know, and he completely doubled the strikes of, it was more than that. Yes. Or yeah, ever so slightly, 75 to 156. I don't know. I just got to go off of what I've seen in the striking, because this is going to be a striker versus striker matchup. Everything's pointing to Sumudaerji for me, but I'm not sleeping on Kevin Borjas. You know, I'm not doubting his abilities. I'm not going to sleep on him too much. Plus 130 dog actually makes sense. I think these lines are perfectly accurate at the minus 150, plus 130. So I get why people are on Kevin Borjas. I personally just don't see it. I think the stats are all pointing to Sumudaerji, so I'm going with Sumudaerji this week. Now, next up, we got Sergei Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes Acosta. This is another similar one. A lot of people are taking Waldo Cortes Acosta this week. I personally am not. I'm going with Sergei Pavlovich. I think this is going to be a good bounce back spot for him. I think people are overestimating Waldo Cortes Acosta. Now, I'm a little bit biased. I've not been the best with my Waldo Cortes Acosta picks. Every time I think he's going to lose, he somehow finds the way to squeak one out. Now, if we go look at his recent fights, oh my God, these damn ads. If we go look at his recent fights, people who didn't watch this fight just look at the stats on this fight and say, oh, it was an absolute beatdown. You know, Waldo completely ran through Sergei Spivak. Like, the striking numbers weren't even close. Go watch that fight again. It was close. It was damn close. You know, I was a little bit biased. I'm not going to lie, because I had some coin on Spivak. I thought Spivak won that fight. He was landing bigger shots. Yes, Waldo was able to have more volume, but Sergei was landing good shots, landing damage. They were getting reactions. He was landing takedowns. I thought he personally won that fight. I know that triggered a million people, and people got so mad about that. I know some people were with me on that, but a lot of people lost their shit when people said that. Regardless, though, it was a very close fight. You know, it was a close fight, very close fight. Regardless of what you want to say, who won or who lost, it was a close fight, and that's probably the best he's looked at a decent level of competition. You know, yes, he got a knockout win over Ryan Spann at the end of the second round. Ryan Spann gasses out. This is when he moved to heavyweight. He doesn't have the cardio to last. So if it was within the first round and a half, yeah, I'd put a little bit more respect on it. Later than a round and a half, yeah, Ryan Spann just gassed out. You got the knockout win. Not very impressive of a win to me. And then beyond that, Robelis de Spain, trash. He moved to boxing because he can't compete in MMA. Andrei Arlovsky, he beat a 85-year-old Andrei Arlovsky, and he was taunting him. He was showboating him during the fight. Like, dude, you're beating a senior citizen, and you're going to taunt on him? Mad disrespectful. And then he beat the GOAT, Lucas Bresky. That was a joke. Absolute tin can who's just been ran through by everyone in the entire division. So his wins are so overrated that I don't get why people meat ride him so much. He's just not as good as people think he is. And on the other hand, it's kind of the opposite with Sergei Pavlovich, because people see his last couple fights, they're like, oh, this guy sucks all of a sudden. Sergei Pavlovich is not a bad fighter. He's not a bad fighter. Now, is his power maybe a little bit overrated? Sure, you could say that. I wouldn't disagree with that. But you can't say he's bad just because of recent performances. So he lost to Tom Aspinall. Everyone loses to Tom Aspinall. I don't think anyone's given him a ton of shit for this fight, but I mean, that fight, it is what it is. Tom Aspinall would destroy Waldo Cortes Acosta in under 2 minutes flat. He would be dominated. So I'm not holding that that loss against him. Now, the fight that people are giving him a lot of shit for is the Alexander Volkov fight. And I can't even disagree with that. He looked very timid. He looked very shy. But, you got to imagine where he's coming from. He was on a huge spree, all these knockouts, knockout. And then for him to just get ran through by Tom Aspinall in a minute and 9 seconds, that's got to really mess up your mental. That's going to mess up your ego when you haven't been clipped like that in a while. Because the last time before that, it was, I'll start over him. I mean, oh my God, that was so long ago too, 2018. It's he's been on such a run lately. He's not used to that loss. that can really mess with you, especially getting chinned like that too. That's different than your average loss. It's not like he took a decision loss. He got ran through. So obviously it made sense why he was a bit more timid going against Volkov. Now, he was way too timid. He looked terrible. Don't get me wrong. It was a very, very poor performance. Volkov looked great. But people are acting as if Volkov isn't good. Now, Volkov got absolutely robbed when he fought SuYoung. So you can't look at his record for what it is. You got to look at this record. This was a win. He beat SuYoung. He beat him in this fight. He should be on a 5-win streak right now. So at the same time, yes, Sergei looked like shit in that fight, but you got to put some respect on Volkov. Volkov is on a damn good run right now. He should be 5-0, so you can't hate on him for that loss other than him being too timid and him kind of looking like a shell of himself. Sometimes that just happens. You come off a knockout loss, like I've been saying, that happens. People were giving him shit too for the Rosenstruck for this fight. I don't get why people were mad. Rosenstruck, he has so much power in his hands. He has the power to put anyone out. Sergei knew that, and he went into the wrestling. He's evolved as a fighter. He showed that he can take the fight different places if he needs to, which is honestly a good thing. That goes to show, okay, if he's getting outworked on the feet, or maybe he just, I don't want to deal with this guy's power, I can take it to the wrestling if I want to or if I need to. That was a good sign for me. Was it as fun and entertaining as his huge knockout streak that he had? Absolutely not. But at the same time, that tells me that's almost like a fight IQ thing. Like, okay, I'm not going to go and brawl with a dude who has insane knockout power. Let me just dominate him in the grappling and take the path of least resistance. When you're betting on someone, that's exactly the type of guy you want to bet on. So that showed me in recent times, in his last couple fights. Yes, he was looking really good, had the dip where he's going through it. Tom Aspinall lost, Volkov lost was really bad. But now it's like, okay, he's starting to fix his game plan. He's starting to kind of adjust and grow as a fighter. I like to see that. People are saying he's washed, he's done, he's a shell of himself because of including that last fight that he had. I don't think so. If anything, I think it shows growth in him. And yeah, I like him in this fight. And it's like, even if you look at, we'll pull this up with the matchup page, see the full stats. It's like Sergei, I forget exactly what the reach advantage is, but it's crazy. What is it? Can you guys see this? Yeah. What is it? 84-78. That's a huge, huge reach advantage. It's like, oh my goodness. People are just, they're not even considering that when this is likely going to be a striker versus striker. I know we saw Pavlovich implement some grappling before in his last fight, but this is likely going to be striker versus striker. Waldo Cortes, he doesn't have a ton of pop in his hands. He's not the most dangerous striker. If the power is on either side here, it's going to be on the Pavlovich side. So I don't get what people are really like, oh, like Waldo Cortes is a lock here. I don't get that at all. Now, do I think Waldo gets knocked out? No, I think he has a decent chin. We haven't seen that in a long time. This is Sergei, but Waldo, he hasn't been knocked out since boxing years ago. So yeah, 2021, this was when he was doing boxing. Sonny Conto knocked him out, first round knockout. So it's not like he's invincible. You know what I mean? It's not like he's untouchable and his chin can't be cracked, because we've seen it before. Do I think Sergei knocks him out? He definitely could. He definitely could. He has the power to, but in terms of if we're going to actually see that, I don't really know. But I get why people are on Waldo, because it's just like it seems like when he needs to lose, or when you think he's going to lose, he just finds a way to come out the other end. He finds a way to win somehow. But when you really look at the level of competition, it's not close. So I gotta leave Pavlovich. I gotta lean Pavlovich in this one. It's like, I have to. There's no way I could go with Waldo Cortes Acosta in this one, other than he somehow finds a way to, I don't know, I don't want to say luck, but like almost like a DDP, like he flying anvils his way to a win. I don't know. I just don't see it. Doesn't make sense to me. So got to go with Pavlovich in this one. Now, next up, we got Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. I don't even need to get into this one all that much. Aljamain Sterling, confident pick. Brian Ortega is, no disrespect, he's washed. He's washed at this point. Brian Ortega, he's overhyped. People love him. There's so much bias that people have. The Brian Ortega fanboys are so diehard. I actually respect it. The Brian Ortega fanboys, not a bad fan base. Honestly, most of them are pretty chill dudes, I gotta say. The ones that I see, they're pretty chill. So no beef with the Brian Ortega T-City boys. He's just he's just off, man. He's just past his prime. He's washed. And I know he's younger here too, but it's just like he's been in so many wars. And it's like with Brian Ortega, he's just the dude where his style is just not going to keep going the older he gets. He's just the type of guy where he needs a sub or he's probably going to lose, and he has to take a big-ass beating in order to get it to those later rounds where someone starts to slow down. Aljamain Sterling's just not going to be that guy. Max Holloway beat the shit out of him. Hulk did work on him. Yair beat him. Or, I guess, oh no, that was TKO. Yes, he got his get back on Yair, but, I mean, it's like, yeah, you had to wait and slow him down. It's like, I don't know. Yair, I mean, it was impressive, but say what you want about both of these. They were both a little odd. I don't know. Say what you want. The Diego Lopez fight. I max bet Diego Lopez against Brian Ortega. I have never been a fan of Brian Ortega. I think he's always been overrated. But the 2025 Brian Ortega is definitely not any better. So there's literally no reason to pick Brian Ortega in this. Unless you think somehow he's going to get Aljamain to death gas, because it is a 5-rounder. So unless you think Aljamain Sterling's going to death gas, we just saw Aljamain Sterling have a very competitive match with Movsar Evloev. That's all I needed to see. That is all I needed to see. He could come up a weight class, be fine. He can hang. He can survive. That's all boy needed to see. You know, and he's looked good too. It's like, yeah, he had these grappling fights. Calvin Kattar, 2024 Calvin Kattar. Yeah, say what you want about it, can't lie. But he's fought the higher level of competition. He's looked better. He beats Udo, TJ Dillashaw. I mean, it's like, Petr Yan, I know, yeah, say what you want about the DQ. But it's like he's fought high-level competition. He's looked good. Even in the Movsar Evloev loss, he threw the fight away, just not doing enough damage on the ground. He could have won that fight. If he had landed more ground and pound, he could have won this fight. It was that close. So I'm not going to hold that as like, oh, well, like he can't hang here, this weight class is too much for him. I'm not going to say that at all. I don't believe that's the case. I think Aljamain Sterling is better in the striking, the grappling. I think he's better everywhere. I just don't see a world where Brian Ortega wins. He's literally inferior everywhere. He's not a better striker. He's not a better grappler. I mean, maybe Brian Ortega has better raw submission. I don't know. It's just like, it's so close in the grappling that it's like, I think it'll cancel out, if anything, but Aljamain Sterling's probably going to be better. It's like Brian Ortega wears damage absolutely horribly. His face swells up. He takes beatings awfully. He shows it on his face. So if anything's landing, it's going to look bad for him. I just think he's washed. I think he's past his prime. Aljamain Sterling, very confident pick. I can't keep talking about this. I keep shitting on T-City, but it's just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of sad at this point, man. I don't know. But Aljamain Sterling, confident pick this week. Now, finally, for the main event, we got Johnny Walker versus Mingyang Zhang. I'm picking Johnny Walker. I'm kidding. I'm not picking Johnny Walker. But I think people are sleeping on Johnny Walker this week. I'm not picking him. You can't pick Johnny Walker. You can't pick Johnny Walker in this fight. But I get why people have hesitations. If anything, I think I have more hesitations than other people. I feel like the people who are saying Mingyang Zhang is an absolute lock of the century, I would be very, very cautious about those people. I'd be very cautious. Because, yes, Mingyang Zhang is a killer. He's a killer who knocks dudes out. But he's kill or be killed. Now, if you look at the UFC too, it's three fights. Three fights. Brandon Ribeiro, who's chinny. Yes, people are saying he's just like Johnny Walker. I totally get it. He's chinny. Knocked him out. Ozzy Diaz, decent level competition. Not great, but like a good win, especially round 1 knockout. Anthony Smith, washed 2025. Anthony Smith, I don't really put anything behind that. Johnny Walker would beat a 2025 Anthony Smith. So if you're looking at these wins, 3-0, people are like max betting him here. It's like when he loses, he got subbed in 2019. He got knocked out here. He got knocked out here. Make sure you guys can see this. It's like when he loses a 1 decision loss, but got knocked out here, got subbed here. Johnny Walker, when he's doing all the crazy, wild bullshit, he's had success in the UFC at a decent level. You can see submitted Ion Cutelaba, knocked out Paul Craig. Anthony Smith, 2023 Anthony Smith. It's a little bit better than 2025. comparable. But and then he lost to Ankalaev getting knocked out. You know, it's like Volkan Ozdemir. That's good level competition. That's better than what Mingyang Zhang's fought. So to completely rule out Johnny Walker is a bit silly. It's a bit silly because he's the type of guy where, like, when he was doing the whole reckless style in the past, he's looked better. And he's tried to kind of narrow it in. He's gotten a little. He's kind of gone against the grain of his core values, almost like a Sean O'Malley, not dyeing his hair and all that, and like not smoking or whatever. It kind of goes against like who you are. When you're trying to be something you're not, it can show itself in other areas of your life. Free game. But that type of thing is like, what if he says, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go back to what got me to where I am. I want to go back to the crazy style. Screw being technical. And if it's going into a crazy flying anvil, flying piano type of fight, you know, anything could happen here. Both these guys are killed or be killed. You still got to pick Mingyang Zhang. When you look at it, you do have to kind of take a step back and look at like, okay, why was this fight made? Well, it's in China. Mingyang Zhang, yeah, if they threw him against a top 5 guy, probably wouldn't be pretty. You know, we know he just wants to keep it on the feet. He wants to stand and bang. Who would be better for that to make a highlight reel knockout for him and increase our scene in the Asian market? Johnny Walker. You know, that's like a no-brainer. So don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I do have my skepticism here. But at the same time, I can see it for what it is. Johnny Walker has not been looking good. He's on a downward streak. Mingyang Zhang's the future of China right now. I mean, what Chinese fighters are light heavyweights? You know what I mean? Like, what fighters are from China this big? He's like a rare breed. They're trying to take care of him. They're trying to build him up as a star. Trust me, I totally get that. But there's always a chance. Johnny Walker, don't sleep on him. And I'm not even going to go to the whole, yes, he has a 7-inch reach advantage. I'm not even going down that path. I mean, it's a fact. It's something to consider. But I'm not even entirely weighing that into my reasoning for a little bit of a hesitation here. It's purely just, if the old crazy Johnny Walker comes in here, he could knock Mingyang Zhang out. It could happen. There's more of a chance of that happening than people think. That's at least what I think. You know, I think people are saying there's almost zero chance. Also, Johnny Walker has been training with his brother, who's the heel hook demon. You know, maybe Johnny Walker maybe he pulls a Pavlovich and he says, I don't like getting knocked out and hit in the face anymore. Let me wrestle. And if this is a little bit hypothetical because, Johnny Walker he's not a wrestler. You know, that's not him. But what I am saying is, though, he does have the submission game. You know, he can sub guys before. He subbed Ion Kuchalaba. He has that in his back pocket. Maybe not at a crazy level, but he's been training with his brother. His brother's had so much success with it. Maybe it's starting to rub off on him. I just don't know. I haven't seen what his training's looking like. I haven't seen a ton of interviews of him talking about his game plan or whatnot. So I'm just saying, if Johnny Walker stuck to a smart game plan and he just tried to grapple, I could see him wrapping up a submission. I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe he says, screw being technical. I want to crash out. I want to make it a war. I'm just going to stand and bang. Here's a chance he could knock out Mingyang Zhang. There's a chance. Now, my pick got to be Mingyang Zhang by knockout. That's got to be the most likely outcome here. This fight was made for a reason. It's to put him on a pedestal, make the China crowd go absolutely nuts. I get it for what it is. And that's probably the most likely outcome. That's why I'm almost wanting to just take the under for what I'm going to look at the props and whatnot. I probably will have something on Mingyang Zhang by knockout round 1, just because it seems too free, and that's likely what happens. Gun to my head, I had to say, if I had to pick a winner method round, it's got to be Mingyang Zhang round 1 knockout. I mean, there's no other most likely outcome. Anyway, guys, that does it for the video. Sorry for having this one up a little bit later, and I know I don't have the graphics up like normal. It's been a crazy week, got a ton of stuff going on, so it's been a bit chaotic lately. But I hope you guys found some value in this. You know, I hope you guys liked it. If you do, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It means a ton. Let me know in the comments who you guys are taking, who you like, who you don't like. If there's anything I pointed out that you might disagree with, or if there's anything that I didn't say that you are thinking about, or if you have any insights of your own, to drop them in the comments. Let me know, because I'm always trying to, like I said, unturn those stones. I'm always trying to figure out different angles, trying to see what other people are thinking. It helps me in my decisions. So does it for this one. I'm going to see you guys soon with the locks and traps and the weighing recap in the betting video. So I got to get those out here soon, because I know this card is, Saturday morning at 3 a.m. So I'll be trying to crank them out. So make sure you guys stay tuned for those. But in the meantime, thank you guys once again for all the support, all the love. Thank you so much for watching. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'll see y'all in the next one. So peace.